Yo, 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 what's good, YouTube? What's good? It's Stormybman, and I am back welcoming you to another edition of Noids on Culture with Stormy B Man and my man Drew Titan for this Monday, June 27th, 2022. And this one we are calling The Western, Volume 1. The reason that we say volume one is because the entire genre of Western films is so vast and so enduring that we couldn't possibly get through all of the great classics in this show, which we have such little time to do. So we picked a few selections out tonight to introduce the subject, and we'll be able to revisit it again down the line in the future. But I am so glad those of you who elected to come in with us this evening and partake in this great discussion on the classic genre of Westerns. Welcome. Don't forget to smash the like button as you come in, and also allow me to introduce my co-host here. We got Drew Titan in the building with me this evening. What's going on, Drew? How you doing?
Yes, sir. I'm doing well, brother. I'm doing well. Long day, but we here. We here to let it all out.
Yes, sir. We are here, and with the little backdrop that I put up there with the names and figures from the classics. You know, we got a few familiar faces up there. You know, you got the old guy, I won't hit you, the hell I won't, John Wayne. Out there, we got Robert Duvall, Kevin Costner, Sam Elliott, Tom Selleck, Clint Eastwood. You know, just a few names, just to name a few. And we're gonna talk about this genre a little bit this evening. Hey, Drew, I grew up on the genre. My dad was a huge, huge, huge Western fan. And even on the Saturday mornings when they had like the Cisco Kid on and stuff like that, my dad used to watch all that stuff, man. And sometimes it drove me crazy because, the TV in the house was his TV, and it's like I had to sit there and watch this stuff. But some of the films that had made their run in the theaters were now being shown on television. And, I was sitting there watching them with him. And then, as time moved on, I began to like them, myself. So it's just kind of like that thing, And even today, I have a moderate collection of classic westerns, but it's just nice to know that that's something that I shared with my dad. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
like, just, can you tell us like what your experiences are with westerns?
Branded. Da-da-da-da-da. What do you do when you're branded? I remember that, man. Man, what time I used to come on? Man, it was on the weekends. I used to wake up, and I think my grandma used to watch that a lot. Watch Branded.
Bonanza.
Yeah, Bonanza. Wow, man. Oh, man. So I don't know it all, but I'm very familiar. What was one? There was one that I must have seen a lot. What was the series? That wasn't Bonanza. It wasn't Branded. Oh, the goddamn Lone Ranger
Lone
in black and
Ranger.
white. The one
You
in
had
black and white.
the Rifleman, Gunsmoke.
Gunsmoke. Gunsmoke. Yeah, yeah,
There were
man.
so many, man. There were so many.
It's a part of it's a part of American culture. If you grew up here, you saw westerns. You really did. Yeah, so I'm very familiar.
Another thing about westerns is the writers of those films always found a way to mix some kind of humor in to whatever the play was between the performers, because each television show as well as the films, they would get to a certain point where there's a big buildup and there's going to be a gunfight. And of course, when you have a gunfight, it's not like a fist fight. So it's going to be over as soon as somebody catch a bullet. So
Yeah,
they had to build the anxiety up to the action, you know, and the action would deliver. And sometimes, you know, one of the old staples from the original westerns was a guy would fire the 6-shooter, pew, and then the camera cut to the guy he's firing at, and the guy would duck behind a rock or a tree or something. How you gonna duck a bullet?
Man? Come on, man. It did not go down like that. It did not. I got a question for you, though. I got a question for you. Would you consider Kung Fu a Western?
Yes.
Yeah, I would too.
Yes.
Good old David Carradine. Yes.
Yeah. You know, and it's so funny because the whole play on guys packing and this dude walking through the deserts and the towns and stuff, and he get a chance to get some punches and kicks off before they get their shots off. It's a little stretching of the imagination there, you know?
It slowed it down. It was in slow motion. He was supposed to be moving so fast.
Yeah, right?
You know, it was funny.
And the techniques were really, like, horrible, too. You could tell that the people that they had on that production, man, they were like, they didn't know anything about action choreography when it came to martial arts. But Bruce Lee would change all of that.
Bruce Lee would have changed that, but, you know, they robbed him of that.
So, but yeah, man, we're going to talk about some Westerns tonight. And thought I'd kick it off with, we've got 5 selections here for you guys for Volume 1. And it's probably not what you think. And there's a reason that these 5 have been selected. So we'll open up with this one here, a classic from 1960, the Magnificent Seven. This film right here, man, was a tremendous film for the ages of Westerns. One of the things that it did was it brought the story of Akira Kurosawa's Japanese film classic, The Seven Samurai, and turned it into a Western for a change. And it used to be that the Asians were turning Westerns into Easterns, you know, to suffice why they had their either swordplay or their action from their side of the world. But Kurosawa's Seven Samurai was released in 1954. And The Magnificent Seven is basically a remake of that. But what was so great about this one, released in 1960, there was an ensemble cast that featured a venerable who's who in Hollywood from the time. So you had the likes of Yul Brynner, Steve McQueen, Charles Bronson, Robert Vaughn, Brad Dexter, James Coburn, and Horst Buchholz. These guys were always on the screen playing various characters. And Eli Wallach was also in the film, and he would go on to be known in several other Westerns, often playing a bad guy. But these guys were mercenaries, and somewhat reluctant mercenaries to come. They were hired to defend this small town, a Mexican village, defend them from these gang of bandits that would come in and just pillage them for their raids on food and supplies. So they reached out and tried to, you know, hire, you know, some guns to help protect their town. Now, this film was also remade, you know, in the mid 2000s, and it featured the likes of Chris Pratt, and you had Denzel Washington and everything. It was like, you know, but there's something about the original that sets itself apart. And I don't know about you, Drew, but one of the things about back in that era when this film was made, certain actors had a certain type of appeal. And one of them was Yul Brynner, man. Most people remember him from The King and I, you know. But Yul Brynner was awesome, man. He was like the coolest dude. had a
Yul
bald head, you
Yul
know.
Brynner made the bald head cool.
Yes,
He
sir.
was original, and then followed by Tully Savalas later on. But
Yes.
Yul Brynner made the bald head cool. I remember. My grandma, both of my grandmothers loved Yul Brynner. They loved him some Yul Brynner. And I recall Steve McQueen. You know how I know Steve McQueen? Because of course that movie was out before I was born. But I remember Steve McQueen because he did a movie. Am I correct? He did a movie called For the Apache the Bronx. That was him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I know Steve McQueen. Yeah.
And Steve McQueen was also a rebellious Hollywood actor. He ran the fast lane of life with the women and the cars and everything. And he was actually a professional race car driver too. You know, he was just a guy who lived life on the edge. And he died in the late 70s from cancer.
Yeah.
But Steve McQueen was a guy who really, he was like, I guess if you consider Tom Cruise the big name in Hollywood for men today, that was Steve McQueen during his heyday. And he garnered all the big box office, all of the accolades and everything. And a lot of people may not know this, but he was a very good dear friend of Bruce Lee's. And Bruce Lee actually took him on as a student as well. Both he and James Coburn around similar times. And Bruce Lee often remarked about Steve McQueen and James Coburn. He said, if you could combine the two personalities, you could have the perfect martial artist. Because he said that Steve was the physical one. He, fighting, running through a brick wall, all of that. He was just a on the edge type living guy. But he said James Coburn was real mellow and philosophical and stuff like that. So he would be like the monk side of things. And he said if you could combine the two, you'd have the perfect, martial artist. And it's interesting that they both were friends of Lee's, and they both were pallbearers at his funeral. So that just shows how much respect went between them. And he has said that when he was filming Enter the Dragon, he said he just wants Enter the Dragon to be the biggest box office film for the year it got released in 1973. He wanted it to outclass Steve McQueen's film, which I think at that time might have been Bullet, but Lee didn't live to see the box office success, but his film did outshine Enter the Dragon, outshine Steve McQueen's film that year. So he, and they were going at each other. They were like rivals, but competitive, and it's strange because friends can be like that. You have a friend like you down and everything, but you be like, I ain't letting that sucker beat me, man. It's like, he ain't better than me, and that's the kind of rapport that they had. But this film was a classic, and I brought along the trailer for it so we can review and reminisce on the film that was the Magnificent Seven.
777, the Magnificent Seven. They were only seven, but they fought like 700 to bring the kind of justice that would last. 777, the Magnificent Seven. They made a brave stand, the Magnificent Seven. They fought for the future to wipe away their past. The Magnificent Seven.
Ride on.
Ride on? Somehow I don't think you solved my problem.
Solving your problems isn't in our line. We deal in lead, friend.
So do I. We're in the same business, huh?
Only as competitors.
Get up and face me! Do you get up?
Look what I found.
us where they were. You hid them.
Sure they hid them. But she won't tell me where. They're afraid. She's afraid of me, you, him, all of us. Farmers. Their families told them we'd rape them.
They were only 7, but they fought like 700 to bring the kind of justice that would last. They made a brave stand, the magnificent 7. They fought for the future to wipe away their past. 7, 7, 7, the magnificent 7. The magnificent 7.
Yeah, man. That film was a classic, man. When it came out, it's like it had everybody rocking and rolling because their favorite stars was in it. Now, is this one that you're familiar with, or have you had a chance to check it out? Even if it was a long time ago, you know.
That's played in my aunt's house several times. And how I know is because as soon as I saw Yul Brynner, I remember it.
Yeah.
As soon as I saw him, man, let me tell you, my aunt and my grandma are huge Yul Brynner fans because I thought he was a light-skinned black dude when I was growing up.
You know what? A lot of people question what his ethnicity was because with the fact that he, you know, kept his head bald, you couldn't see the grade of his hair. And a couple of times when he did let it grow out, you know, and took images or even played a role with his hair was a little wavy. You know what I'm saying? So it's like Yul Brynner may have been a mulatto, you know.
He may have been.
Because a lot of times, you know, the stars, they change their names to have a screen name, you know, so we don't even know what their real names are. It's just like
Emilio Estevez.
You know, Emilio Estevez and Sheen, you know, same family, different name, you know.
Different last names, yeah.
We talked about that with John Saxon, remember?
Yes.
When we talked about him, because John Saxon was a Latin man. You know, a lot of people didn't know that, but he was, you know. But yeah, this was a classic. It's kind of like a film that talks about the character of man too, you know, because all of them were different personalities and had different reasons why they were a part of what the whole agenda was in the film. And a couple of them, you know, lost their lives in the film, and the characters and the reasons why. You know, one of the things that films used to do is hold nobility and you know, where you have virtues and things like that. Cinematically, that was usually pushed a lot back in the day. Not so much now. Ethics and virtues kind of go out the window now, you know, but back in the day, that was something that was really, really pushed. And I would like to see a return to that for having values, because people are so influenced by media.
Yeah.
And if you're more responsible with the media, you can do things to make society have a greater impact and positive effect on society by doing something like that. It's just like the reason that they came together in that film. You know, it's like some of those guys is like, man, I don't want to protect this town from bad guys. I'm looking out for myself, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And even in the remake with Denzel, and Denzel was playing the character that Yul Brynner played,
right,
in the original. It just turned into something totally different in a more modern type day, even though it was the Old West, but it's a modern take on the Old West. You know, it was a little bit different. And although I have it in my collection, it does not hold up to the original film at all.
It's usually like that. It's usually like that. You're gonna make me go ahead and go back and watch that, because I clearly remember when I'm watching the attraction. I'm like, I must have seen this and sat through this about 1,000 times, man.
Yeah, right.
You know, because I'm telling you, it was always on the TV. And Yul Brynner is a name that stuck out for me in the 70s into the 80s. I remember that. I remember when he was doing adult smoke commercials because he got sick and blamed it on cigarettes and nicotine and things like that. You know, so I remember that. Yul Brynner.
And there's something that, you know, a lot of people, like if you're of an older demographic, may know these things, but you know, back during those times, the 50s, the early to mid and late 50s, you know, there were a lot of testing out there on the coast, like in New Mexico and Albuquerque, all those areas out there where they would film some of these Westerns. There were testings by the US government with bombs and things like that. And over a period of time, they found out that maybe some of the radiation from bombs and stuff like that, being in that dust and the sand and all of that out there in those areas, that sometimes men who played in these films and everything, and those films would shoot out there for months, you know, and everything, and they're inhaling that dust and stuff. Years later, these men, a lot of them died from cancer. And it could be attributed possibly to working, you know, out there in those regions where testings were done. That's not something that's 1,000%, but there's a percentage, because if you look at some of those actors, a lot of them passed away from the same thing.
Same thing. It's weird.
John Wayne, Yul Brynner, Steve McQueen, you know, and they were from that time, you know, and it's like, it just kind of, but that's just a little trivia for people that may not have known that. But any final thoughts on the Magnificent Seven, Drew, for you?
I'm gonna go watch it now, because as I'm watching the attraction, you know, you're watching something and it takes you back to a place in time in your mind. I was in my aunt's living room on her carpet, laying next to the dog, just watching TV. And at first, it was something I had no interest in watching, but I've done it so much, it's a part of my childhood now. You understand? Yeah. And I know I'm watching clips from that. I must have stepped through that movie at least 12 times already. Yeah. So now I want to watch. Now I'm interested in watching it again. And I even know the song. I'm sitting there like 777. I said, "Oh shit, that's where I got it from." It's in my head.
And you know, back then they used to sing. You know, they used to sing the song. Like now they'll play a certain kind of tune, right?
Right.
To drive a film. But back then you had guys that would sing the lyrics, and you know, heroic lyrics and stuff like what we heard there over the track. And again, that's what makes it a different thing. That takes you someplace, because they definitely didn't do that in the remake. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
but it's like, it just goes to show what was so much different back then. And man, who couldn't love to hate Eli Wallach, right? That dude was like always.
He was like the rent-a villain of every damn film, right? God damn. And I would always forget his name, but I said, man, this fucking guy again. You know what I'm saying? My goodness.
A nemesis, boy, for all time.
He played it well, man.
He did. He
played it really well.
And he lived to be an old guy too. It's like Eli Wallach was around a long time.
I saw Charles Bronson was in that.
Yes, Charles Bronson. And you know what? He was coming up under these guys. And that was what was so interesting, is that a film like Magnificent Seven has so many of the big stars, but then they had a couple of other guys in there that would come on later and have good careers for themselves, like Bronson, you know. And it's interesting because that's a great segue into the next film, because he was actually the star of this one, Once Upon a Time in the West. Man, Drew, this film right here, when I got it remastered on DVD, I think it was in the early 2000s or the late 90s. I would have to look at the label on it. But I was so happy to get this film, and it was very long, this film. A lot of music samples were taken from this film because it had a tremendous soundtrack. Once Upon a Time in the West was a great Western, and this film was directed by Sergio Leone, the man who was the master of what they called the spaghetti westerns. And they called them the spaghetti westerns because Sergio Leone, being an Italian director and bringing that Italian flavor to the cinema, tremendous, he had a tremendous feel for shooting Western action. This film stars Henry Fonda, who was cast against type as the villain. And Charles Bronson was cast as his nemesis, the hero, a silent hero. He didn't speak throughout the entire film, Charles Bronson's character. And for a lead to carry that, he had to act with his mannerisms, his facial expressions, his eye expressions. And Jason Robards, who was definitely a major character actor back in that time, he was a bandit in the film. And this film had that film score by Ennio Morricone. And when you hear the strands, it's so familiar because his music was sampled through other films throughout the years, and especially in particular through Asian films, kung fu films.
Right.
Over there, they didn't respect copyright. They lifted stuff as soon as they could. And it was filmed in widescreen. This film came after The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly that Sergio Leone directed. And he had decided to retire from shooting Westerns, but he came back for this, man. And this film was released in 1968. A very good film. And the plot of the film has a character that's coming to a town, and he's called Harmonica, and that's Charles Bronson's character. And he plays this tune on his harmonica, the same tune throughout the film. And he is he's on a mission. He's looking for something. But they had some other stars in this film, like Woody Stroll. Do you remember him, Drew?
Woody Stroll, yeah, I do.
Yeah, he's one of the first black men to play in the Westerns, and always played very good, strong characters in the films that he played in. And he's definitely a man that's missed and not talked about enough. I'd like to see a film on him someday.
There's no documentary on him at all or anything?
There may be a documentary. I know he's been a part of certain black cinema documentaries, but for what he did for the time he was around, it was special. It was special. It was the equivalent of like Jim Kelly appearing in Enter the Dragon, where you had a strong, solid, black actor there. That
he wasn't cooning or nothing like that.
Exactly. And Woody Stroll was kind of that. But yeah, man, this film was really something. And if anyone who loves Westerns but haven't seen this film, please check it out, because this is a penultimate classic here. The Once Upon a Time in China, not China, in the West, because and I almost made the mistake of saying that, because a lot of films respected, a lot of filmmakers respected this film so much that they wanted to make another epic using that moniker of Once Upon a Time, just like we saw in the mafia films, Once Upon a Time in America.
Right.
which is a classic film. But this film right here, man, and when you find out the story, how it plays out, and you find out who Harmonica is, why he never spoke, and everything, man, it kind of hits you in the feels because it's like this is really, really something, a story well told. And like I said, Peter Fonda in this film, man, he was like a Henry Fonda. I'm sorry, I said Peter.
Yeah.
Peter is the son. Henry Fonda was just a his face. He looked like a wicked demon in the movie. It's like his cold blue eyes. They had him looking that tanned look when you've been out there in the sun in the West for a long time.
Right.
He just was like a despicable character, man. But this was a classic. Do you have memories of this film, or had you seen it?
I'm sure you. No, I don't recall.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm very familiar with Charles Bronson. You see, by the time I got to know Charles Bronson, he was already doing the Death Wish movies.
Right.
But it was my father that said, nah, this guy had a career before that. And that's when I started seeing him in Westerns. So a lot of these films I may have seen, but I never knew the name of them.
Yeah.
I was a kid. Like 5 or 6 years old.
Right.
But I'm sure you got the preview. You're gonna spin that preview?
I do. Yeah, I'm gonna break out with the trailer for this one as we get a chance to enjoy Once Upon a Time in the West.
The Wild West was pretty well
I saw
settled
this
by 1930.
I saw one just like it in Waco.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Pike, you know what I hear? I hear they got one of those things up north that can fly.
That was a balloon, you damned old fool.
No, the old man's right. They got motors, wings, go 60 miles in less than an hour.
Driven to the border by the irresistible thrust of civilization were the remnants of the breed that had made the West wild.
If they move, kill them.
The payrolls were harder to get at. The Army rode the railroad now.
That's my bad, fellas. Let me.
I saw that.
Yeah, that's the next film that we're going to talk about, actually. But that was the wrong trailer.
Mm-hmm.
I apologize for that. That's my fault. But this is it. This is Once Upon a Time in the West. There's Woody Strode. And I apologize once again for that.
There you go.
See, look at Henry Fonda, man.
The railroad. The boom towns. A new life. And the promised land. Once upon a time. The widow, the land grabber, the outlaw, the gunman. The man in search of a name.
Who are you?
A film by Sergio Leone who gave a new face to the West with a fistful of dollars for a few dollars more. And the good, the bad, and the ugly. Starring Claudia Cardinale, Henry Fonda, Charles Bronson, and Jason Robards. A manhunt. A vendetta.
Oh man.
I remember this too. You know how I remember this? When they had Charles Bronson tied up, and
Yeah.
he slapped him up and said, "Who are you?"
Yeah.
I remember that. I remember that. You see, I seen these. I seen
Uh-huh.
these. Yeah.
Classics, man. Classics, bro. That it just, you know, and like I said, the music, isn't that music familiar? You've heard those
Yes.
tunes, right? It's like
Yeah.
several of them that played throughout the film, and they were, you know, just lifted for other projects down the line. And especially in kung fu films. Kung fu films lifted a lot of the spaghetti western soundtracks and as far as music and stuff like that. But yeah, this movie was really, really good, man. I mean, it holds up even to this day. I don't even think they could remake this film because at the time when they did what they did and the story that it told, it was such a surprising ending to this when you find out who Charles Bronson really is and who not Jason Robot, who Henry Fonda was and what role he played and everything. It's like, wow, man, that's a real head trip. And villainous or villainy in this film was at a real apex. It was, you know, just an amazing, amazing classic. This
Man, you gonna
film.
make me go watch all this stuff, man.
You should, man. It's like,
Man.
oh, see, this is one of the things about me, man. I'm a movie buff. Though I love my kung fu films, but you know, you can tell I've dived deep into cinema because it's a great escape, you know.
Yeah, I
That's why.
remember that. I remember that film. It's coming back to me now. He slapped him up. That guy's name was Frank. Who slapped him up? Slapped him up. He's like, "Who are you?" He's like, "Frank." I remember this movie. Oh shoot! You know, I never knew the name of it. And I've watched it.
It's a tremendous film. I'm looking over some notes here that I had lifted from the wiki. Yeah, Henry Fonda, he played Frank in the film. That was
There
his
you go.
name. And Charles
Yeah.
Bronson was referred to as harmonica because he always was playing that harmonica. And like I said, he didn't talk in the film. You know, this film was this film was a classic, man. Matter of fact, I may go back and watch it sometime this week because it's just that good. As much as I talked about Magnificent Seven being the type of film as a classic as it was, this film is even more so. It is something that I believe if you love Westerns and haven't seen it, you can't get through without seeing this film to have something to measure all the others up against. Tremendous, tremendous film. Yeah, so but those are my thoughts on that one.
Yeah, I'm gonna check that.
Now, the film that I had accidentally was mixed the trailer up was The Wild Bunch. This film right here is a classic as well. And this one was made in 1969, a year after Once Upon a Time in the West. And this film, directed by Sam Peckinpah, who did a lot of Westerns, and it stars William Holden and Ernest Borgnine, Warren Oates, Ben Johnson, Edmund O'Brien, and Robert Ryan. These guys were all it was one of those films where it was just a bunch of, you know, riptide type of guys, and it was set in 1913 Texas. And the leader of a gang of aging outlaws dressed up as soldiers seeking retirement after one final score. So as they happen upon this town, you know, a lot of stuff kicks off and the film rolls on from there. But Ernest Borgnine was a hell of a character actor, back in the day, and he played Dutch Engstrom in here, and he was famous for his role in this film, Ernest Borgnine. And William Holden was, the head star of the film. But again, when you talk about these type of Westerns, man, they bring about something to you that make you say, wow, these were like macho men. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They weren't punks. They weren't chumps. These were the real dudes. You know what I'm saying? So kind of some classic stuff here, Drew, man. Classic stuff. I would imagine you may not be familiar with the Wild Bunch.
Not by name, but when you played the preview
and I'll
earlier,
replay the trailer.
I did recall when they were driving in the Model Ts. I do recall that. I totally recall that. This is amazing.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
Great stuff. So let me go ahead and put that one back on. And like I said, I apologize for getting those two trailers mixed up. But this one here is the Wild Bunch.
The Wild West was pretty well tamed by 1913.
I saw one just like it in Waco.
Hey, Pike, you know what I hear? I hear they got one of those things up north that can fly.
That was a balloon, you damned old fool.
No, the old man's right. They got motors, wings, go 60 miles in less than an hour.
Driven to the border by the irresistible thrust of civilization were the remnants of the breed that had made the West wild.
If they move, kill them.
The payrolls were harder to get at. The Army rode the railroad now. But there were still a few trails for the kind who'd be cold before they were tamed. They called them the Wild Bunch. Pike had been a gentleman of principle. He still had a principle or two.
We're not getting rid of anybody. We're gonna stick together just like it used to be. When you side with a man, you stay with him, and if you can't do that, you're like some animal. You're finished.
Dutch had dug for gold. He gave up digging.
How many cases did you take from the train? 16 cases of rifles. We lost one on the trail. He stole it.
Thornton should have been a lawyer.
Robert Ryan.
He always argued.
Oh! Relax, it's just some champagne we ordered.
We gotta get him back. How?
Gorch had been trying for years. Sometimes he almost worked up to normal.
I want you to meet my fiancée.
Oh, shit. I remember parts of that film, too.
Yeah.
I remember that scene. He's like, it's just some champagne I ordered. Bang! I remember that. Holy cow.
Those are the type of, like moments in the Western. It's like, it's so classic, so classic, man. It just takes you to a different place. But again, we could talk about these films, and there are so many, that just, I mean, you and I, we've talked about Kung Fu films, but it's like Westerns have their own, it's like you have subgenres, you know what I mean? You gambling flicks, heist, and it's just like, sometimes it's just a shootout, like High Noon.
I know, right.
So they have their own subgenres. which is why I said, man, I'll only pick 5 so we could talk about a little bit. But these 5 are excellent in their own right. And that doesn't necessarily make them the best of the best, but some of them in certain people's categories, they are. You know what I mean? So let's, just think about it in that way. It's like you like what you like. It's like when I watch Kung Fu films, I like the old bashers a little bit more than the more traditional style films, like the Animal Styles or the Shaolin or Wu-Tang or whatever. But people like what they like. You know what I mean?
Right. There's different genres in those Kung Fu flicks also. You're right.
Yeah.
It's like that with the Westerns. Absolutely.
So the next one that we have on the horizon, man, is a real classic. This one I think it's from 1992, man. Unforgiven. This movie right here, it's the one film that I can actually say that Gene Hackman, forgive me. Gene Hackman as Lil Bill in this film, dude, he was the dude you loved to hate. I mean, you wanted to see him get his so bad.
Gene Hackman, he could play the hell out of a villain, can he?
Like no one else.
My God, he was a douche in this film, man.
Big time.
Damn.
And
he was also an idiot. He was an a-hole in Quick and the Dead too.
Yeah.
Whew.
And this film, it was based on some real people in history, but the story was kind of, changed up a little bit. But some of the names were like real guys from the Old West. And this film, made in 1992, they considered it an American revisionist Western, directed, produced, and starring Clint Eastwood in the lead role. And it was written by David Webb Peoples. This film was so popular, man. Off of a $14.4 million budget, it grossed over $159 million. And it won 4 Academy Awards: Best Picture and Best Director, Best Supporting Actor for Gene Hackman, and Best Film Editing. Unforgiven, I remember the first time I saw it. I didn't see it in the theater, I don't think. I thought I saw it at home on video. But I remember the talk about it. I remember like everybody was saying, man, this new Clint Eastwood Western, it's got Morgan Freeman in there. You know what I mean? And it just took something. It's totally different. It's totally different. And again, these guys, beating up on some prostitutes and marking one of them their face with a knife, permanently disfiguring her. And Lil Bill, who ran the town basically and was building the town, he was the sheriff of the town. He kind of gave those guys a slap on the wrist when people were asking for their hides, for what the crime that they committed against the women. And that made people really hate Lil Bill. And so they were looking to hire some guns to come in and help them out with, what they were doing. And Clint Eastwood, who was a retired gunman, now turned farmer and everything, they had come to him and he wasn't interested in all of that. And then his buddy, who was Morgan Freeman, when he decides that he may take this job on, he goes and asks, Morgan Freeman if he wants to join him on this quest. But there's a great line in there, Drew, from this film where when Clint Eastwood goes on the rampage, because he kind of gets a hiding in here too. You know, they do a number on him.
Yeah.
And when he comes back for his get back, you know, he blasts the guy, and somebody yelled, they was like, "You just shot an unarmed man." And he said, well, he should have armed himself.
Should have also. Oh man, yo, Clint Eastwood got the one-liners, man. Oh man,
it was
funny.
Classic, man. It was classic.
It
was like, I never forgot that. I was like, man, Clint Eastwood was something else, bro. He was something else. And you know, after films like Outlaw Josie Wales and Pale Rider and stuff like that, and of course the Man with No Name series that he starred in, his Westerns always had a, you know, he wasn't the same guy in everyone. Like somebody could play a stereotype character. His characters was, you know, because his guy in Unforgiven, his shot was off and everything. He couldn't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what are your recollections on this one? Because I know you've seen Unforgiven.
Yeah, I actually snuck into the theaters to see this one.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, it was just 92. I was still in high school.
Okay.
Man, based off of because I only saw it twice. Snuck in with some girls, but that line that you mentioned was classic.
Yeah, right.
And you know, you're watching it, and you know it's Clint Eastwood, man. You know what's happening. You know what's about to happen. So when they did what they did to him, and he was on his way to get back, we was like, all right, here you go. And man, did he live up to it? Man, did he live up to it, man. The plot was great. You're right. There was some things that were based off of what I was told from other people. There were some, dare I say, like historical things happening in that film that they kind of like bent up a little bit. But the climax of the film was Clint Eastwood getting his get back. Hence the title Unforgiven. I mean, that was beautiful, man. I was like the last, what? It's about 15, 20 minutes of the film. That's what we was looking forward to, man. Man, Clint Eastwood was that guy, man. The one-liners for life. Yeah, for those of you young cats that don't know, I'm sure you've heard "Go Ahead, Make My Day." That's Clint Eastwood. That's Clint Eastwood, man. He's that dude. No matter how crazy he is. How old is Clint Eastwood now?
Oh man, he's got to be 90 maybe, or pushing it. He's definitely up there.
He's older than Chuck Norris.
Yeah, because Chuck Norris is what, 84, 85, something like that.
Yeah, I saw a video of him hitting pads recently.
I saw it too.
Yeah. Salute to him.
Yeah, so
Clint Eastwood.
Let's enjoy a take on the Unforgiven with their trailer here.
Step over to the office and get the bullwhip.
A whipping? That's all they get after what they've done? Get out of there!
It was a matter of honor.
They're paying $1,000 to whatever kills the two boys that cut up Delilah.
In a time when lawmen were killers.
What are y'all looking at?
You English, Bob?
Outlaws were heroes.
Well, I thought that you were dead.
Hell, I even thought I was dead. Till I found out it was just in Nebraska.
And a bad reputation.
You're the one who killed William Harvey and robbed that train over Missouri?
Was as good as gold.
My guess is you're calling yourself Mr. William Munny.
Say what?
You don't look no meaner than hell, cold-blooded damn killer.
I ain't like that anymore, kid.
$1,000 reward, Will.
Nobody's gonna come.
So you still have that Spencer rifle, huh?
Yeah.
He's my partner. He don't go, I don't go.
What's it come to 3 ways?
Just because we're going on this killing, that don't mean I'm gonna go back to being the way I was.
Are you really gonna kill them cowboys?
I do not like assassins or men of low character. We ain't bad men no more. We're farmers.
You're a lot of savages! A bunch of bloody savages! Assassin!
I guess they have it coming.
We all have it coming, kid.
Some legends will never be forgotten. Some wrongs can never be forgiven.
Any man don't want to get killed. Better clear on out the back.
Unforgiven.
The guy who's narrating, that's my dude that voiced Optimus Prime.
Yeah.
Forget his name. Yeah, we snuck in the movie. I saw that actually twice. We snuck in with some girls, man. I remember that. I remember that, man.
So you was watching something else more than watching.
Yeah, I was watching something else. But I remember the climax of the movie. He was trying to get his range back. He couldn't shoot that goddamn can off the off the stoop. That I remember, man. Whoo, man.
No, that ain't the climax you remember from the movie.
Yeah.
I know the climax that you remember from the movie. Oh, baby. Yeah.
Oh man, I remember that, man.
But yeah, Unforgiven was a classic, man. Definitely a classic, you know. And let's just get on into this other one, the last one, which I saved this one for last on purpose. Tombstone, man. Now this one right here, Drew. Man, let me tell you something about this film here.
My
man.
God.
Oh my goodness. This
My
film
God.
right here, if ain't nobody ever watched a Western before, show them this one.
Right. But you know what though? You know what though? If you show them this and then try and take them back to show the old ones, I don't think they would appreciate it that much.
Yeah, but I say that in the sense of like a one-off, you know, because
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's like this right here, man. Not only is it filled with a cast of characters, but an amazing ensemble of talent. You know, it's just an amazing. It's like Kurt Russell, Val Kilmer, Sam Elliott, Bill Paxton, Powers Booth, Michael Biehn. Man, these guys were something.
They hit their mark on this one, man. And you know what you learned in this? The Cowboys were the bad guys.
Yes, sir.
The Cowboys were the bad guys. They were making them drop those flags. Remember that?
Yep.
That's where it came from.
Remember one of my favorite characters from the film too, Stephen Lang, man, as Ike Clanton. Man.
Boy.
Y'all ain't nothing but a bunch of pimps. You know what I'm saying? Man, Stephen Lang was something else in this film.
You want to know one of my favorite scenes in this film was when Billy Bob Thornton's character was early in the film when he was playing cards and he was bullying everybody. You know what I'm saying? And Wyatt Earp walks up on him. He's like, what's with this guy? He's like, yo, listen, man, he's just playing cards or whatever. He says, no. He goes over there and slaps him. He slaps him silly. Boom, boom. What you making all this noise for?
Mm-hmm.
Then he left and tried to get the pistol, and that ain't work out. Man, if you have not seen Tombstone, they are so. And listen, man, let me tell you something. Val Kilmer as Doc Holliday, he almost stole the movie. That's how cool he was in this film. He was a gunman, and it was like his gunplay was so crazy that it was of legend. If you didn't see it, you thought it was overrated. But man, what was that scene where he was sitting on the porch and those cowboys came into town talking mess, and he said something crazy to him, and he jumped off the porch. He said, "Say when?" And he was ready, boy. Man, yo, Val Kilmer was so thugged out in this film. If you have not seen Tombstone, you're selling yourself short. If you want to see a Western and say, yo, I'm not into Westerns, but I watch this, this is the one I recommend. Tombstone is the one I recommend. I'm telling you, man, Val Kilmer, when we left the theater, all we kept talking about was like, yo, man, Doc Holliday was so gangster in this film, man. He was so gangster. He got off his deathbed for one last showdown and won. It was crazy.
I'm your Huckleberry.
I'm your Huckleberry. It came from this film. When you hear people say, I'm your Huckleberry, it came from this film. Tombstone, Tombstone, Tombstone. This is my film right here. Woo!
Yeah, man. What an amazing film. What an amazing film.
Love it.
And remember when they had that gunfight and they was firing at Wyatt, but he was still going through the battle and everything. And it was like he wasn't getting hit. And everybody was like, is that a ghost? You know,
Like, we're about to lose. He was like, no. He just jumped up. Boom, boom. They was like, what the fuck? They couldn't touch him. He was like, no, we ain't losing this. And for those of you that don't know, the buildup was this was surrounded by the showdown at the OK Corral.
Yes.
It was those guys, man. Beautiful stuff, man.
Yes.
Beautiful stuff.
I love this film, man. I love this film. I must have watched it like, when it came out on DVD, I must have watched it like, 3-4 times, back to back, just like, man, it's like classic lines going back to them and stuff. It's man, and it's also one of the films that I noticed that all these gunmen was taking their guns out, hitting people across the head with their guns. It was like, it was like, whacking dudes with the gun, man. It was so funny, man. It was a great film. Great film.
Oh man, loved it, man. Love that film.
I'm gonna go ahead and drop that trailer for it. Here we go.
Let's get it.
It was a place where a man could start over, where a fortune could be made. They say every town has a story. Tombstone has a legend.
Who is he?
That's Wyatt Earp. Made a name for himself as a peace officer.
I heard of you.
I'm retired.
You must be Doc Holliday. Are you retired too?
Not me. I'm in my prime.
Hollywood Pictures presents
The only real law around here is the cowboys.
the story of Wyatt Earp.
The first time in our lives we got a chance to stop wandering and finally be a family. Now this is trouble we don't need.
If we're gonna have a future in this town, it's gotta have some law and order.
What do you want, Ringo?
I want your blood. I want your soul. I want them both right now.
You shot your brother.
Yep.
Now the time has come for justice.
Guess maybe you better swear me in.
And he has to live up to his reputation.
You got a fight coming.
I'll be there!
One last time.
None of your problem, Doc. You don't have to mix up in this.
That is a hell of a thing for you to say to me.
In a battle.
The last charge of Wyatt Earp and his immortals.
At the OK Corral.
Oh my God.
The West would never forget. Kurt Russell. Val Kilmer. Dana Delaney. Powers Booth. Michael Bean. Bill Paxton. Jason Priestley, Sam Elliott, and Charlton Heston.
You tell them I'm coming, and hell's coming with
Hell
me.
coming with me.
Justice is coming to Tombstone.
That's
Man,
it,
they messed up when they shot his brother.
Yeah.
They should have left him alone, man. And then they thought he was leaving on that train. He said, you tell him I'm coming. I was like, oh, it's on now. We got a movie. Woo.
Yeah, man. Val Kilmer was so excellent in this film, man. I think he got his entire fan base from this film alone after his performance here, bro. As Doc Holliday, man. It's just an amazing thing. And I love that, man. I love the performances. Kurt Russell was great.
Yeah.
You know, he looked like one of them guys when they put that mustache on him.
Yeah,
He
right. Don't
looked
they?
like one of them guys from back in those days, didn't he?
Man,
he wore that for real. Him and Sam Elliott.
it wasn't Booth. He played the hell out of that villain role, man.
Yeah, Powers Booth. Yeah,
Powers
man.
Booth played the hell out of that villain role, man. And again, if you haven't seen it, the Cowboys were the villains. They were the villains. And when they walked up in that town, it's like the only laws in here are the Cowboys. They were running around there, guns blazing, just taking shit over. And Wyatt Earp said, you know what? It stops here. It's a great story. It's a revenge story, and it's a story about the law. And restoring law and order in the town of Tombstone. It was Tombstone. That was the name of the town?
Yeah, absolutely.
And showdown at the OK Corral, man. Whew. Man, but Doc Holliday was my dude. My goodness, man. My goodness. My goodness, man.
Remember when he was sitting there at the poker table playing, and Ike accused him of cheating, and he was like, he said, "Well, Ike, maybe poker just ain't your game." And he said, "You ain't nothing but a bunch of pimps. You cheating, you know, this and that." So he's like, "I know. Let's have a spelling contest."
Yo, Val Kilmer played that role, man. Oh man, Val Kilmer was the coolest. What did Doc Holliday die of?
You know what? He had the what do they call that? It's not tuberculosis, but it was some kind of disease of the lungs.
Yeah, it was something very curable today.
Yeah. And that's what that was for him. Because remember, he was like throughout the film, he was sick throughout the film.
Sick.
But he got worse and worse and worse. But my man, he come up off his deathbed to ride with Wyatt, you know. That was one of the coolest moments in the movie, wasn't it?
Yeah, when Wyatt went to go, what was that guy's name? He went to go, he said, yo, he asked Doc, he said, I'm a showdown with him. He said, okay. He said, can I beat him? And Doc looked at him, he said, no. Because dude was nice with it.
Yeah.
He said no. So Wyatt was going his way over there. So the dude was like, yo, come on out. And you hear him say, I'm your Huckleberry. And he saw it was Doc. I was like, oh, yo, I went crazy. I was like, oh, shit. But I said, damn, he's sick. And he was like, yo, so then he bitched up. He said,
hey, tell him. He said, hey, Doc, I ain't got no problems with you. He's like,
I was just kidding.
Funny. Doc was like, I wasn't.
Yo, he was like, call it. And if y'all ain't see it, I ain't gonna tell you how he got him.
Oh,
but he got his ass. And then he was like, come on. Oh my God. Classic.
Man.
He should have. Did he get an award for playing Doc Holliday?
Let me double check because I got the stuff pulled up right here. Let's see. Let me see if any awards.
He played the hell out that role, man. He was a freaking genius, boy. And that.
Did he get awards? Let's see. I'm not seeing anything.
He should have.
He was awesome in this film, though.
He was awesome in that film.
Man. And it's very unfortunate what has happened to him with his voice and everything, you know, having cancer of the throat and everything. But no, it doesn't say.
He definitely should have.
Yeah. But yeah, man, what an amazing performance here. All of them, really. You know, Sam Elliott was great, you know. And I tell you, Sam Elliott looks like he just walked out of the Wild West, right? It's like,
right? Some guys are just born to do certain things, man. You know, that guy, man, they all play that right there. 5 stars from me, man. I love Tombstone. Absolutely love Tombstone.
Yes, sir.
Another Western, more modern day Western. Next time we revisit Westerns, you got to talk about Young Guns.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That was high. That was fast paced.
Yes.
Very fast paced, but I liked it.
Absolutely. Yeah. But yeah, man. And we're just at our time, and I know you got something coming up too. But
yes,
you want to give some final thoughts on what we were able to accomplish
as always, man. I don't. It's funny because all of those Westerns, I don't remember the name, but when I saw them, I'm like, yo, I remember that. And bingo, they're part of my childhood. So now I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna watch all those damn movies because I remember it takes me back to a place where, you know, it was cheaper for me to stay for my parents when they were working nights. It was cheaper for me to stay at a relative's house so I could watch TV all night. You know what I mean? And one of the things that I was watching was either a Western film or Bonanza or Branded or any one of those, you know, those films, man. And you know, Westerns are the shit, you know, and I know it's kind of hard for people that understand American history, how the Chinaman was treated, how the black man was treated. But sometimes you got to put certain stuff aside and just take it for what it is as entertainment. You know what I mean? And if you can leave some of that stuff out of it, you can like really enjoy it, man. And I'm going to watch me some Tombstone probably the night before I go to bed, man. But goddamn, that was great, man. So Stormy, this was another slam dunk as usual. This was great. This was great.
It was, man. It was an amazing show because, again, you know, setting everything up with, you know, we have the movie poster, we talk about the films a little bit, have the trailers there, and just we can reminisce and kinetically just take it from that standpoint of our experience of it, you know what I mean, and why we love this stuff, why we love our culture, and this thing about being a nerd, man, is so deep, you know, and that's what we try to share with people and get them to understand. Maybe if more people allowed themselves to have something to partake in, whether it's music, books, you know, shows, movies, whatever,
Stormy,
you find an escape. You have an outlet to decompress.
Hobbies keep you out of trouble.
Yes.
A large portion of the reason why I never got in trouble in the street was A, because I was more scared of my parents than I was of the law.
Yes.
And B, I learned how to entertain myself. And a part of my entertainment is a reflection of my personality. I'm an outgoing person. I'm an easygoing person. And I'm fun at heart. I'm a big kid in certain aspects, you know? And the people that don't have hobbies or thought that I was corny growing up, they always got into some shit. They were parents when they, you know, at 16 years old and always got into the drug and the street things. And they've aged beyond their time. You know what I'm saying? They've grown up too fast. I enjoyed being a kid. And sometimes you want to go back to that part of your life. I enjoyed that portion of my life because I was thoroughly entertained and I didn't let the streets entertain me. You know, that topic is for something I'm going to leave, you know, for my show, you know, hobbies, because it's very important that you get one, whether it's reading a book or just playing basketball or going to a gym. You understand? So yeah, that's the type of time I'm on. So this is why this portion of your channel is very important, you know, because we're going to talk about all of those things, because these are the things that kept us young, youthful, you know, kept our minds occupied. And for us to be able to talk about it at this age, it keeps us sharp.
Yes.
You understand? So this is very, very, very important, man. But I appreciate you, man. I appreciate this show. Hell yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I appreciate you being a part of it with me. And, you know, it's funny is as we've done these shows, we found out we had even more in common. You know, it's like
right. Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
and that's a great thing. See, you explore those avenues of, you know, things that are building, you know,
Right.
for self-building and external building and things like that. And this is what you find, man. And that's a great thing. That's a great thing. So proud to be doing this with you, man. And can't wait till we figure out what the next one's gonna be, because that's what we do. We kind of say, oh, what we gonna do next? Oh, let's talk about it, you know, and then we do it. It's
We
like,
do
you
it,
know.
yeah. Yeah.
So, and that also helps make it pretty cool, because
Mhm.
it's a little bit of spontaneity in this. You know, it's not just us, you know, reading off the page, but it's like,
I got a fun one for you. When we come off, I'll let you know what I'm thinking. But
yeah,
I got a real
okay,
fun one for next week. It should be real fun.
cool. But we're gonna get ready to get on up out of here. I want to say salute and thanks for everybody that tuned in to us this evening. Those that'll catch us on the replay should have been here live, because it was a lot of fun. And smash that like button on your way out if you didn't on your way in. And you know, we'll catch you guys on the next one. Shout out to the mighty LDBC. And we up out of here, man. It's been another Nerds on Culture, the Western Volume 1. And we will come back with some more in the future. So peace to everybody. Enjoy the rest of your week. We out.